Alright guys, this is the pilot episode of our old school Runecast. We are just starting. Today we're going to be talking about just some nonsense. We're just testing everything out. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, Spotify, our Twitch channel. We are streaming this live actually right now. We will be streaming live all of our broadcasts, so please keep an eye out for that. Today I'm your host, Monkey Commando. Today with me is the legendary Dr. Twist.
Yep.
We have the infamous RS felon, Josh Pillalt.
Pleasure to be here.
Guys, make sure you follow the RS felon on Twitter. That's at Josh Pillalt. And he also streams on Twitch pretty regularly at JPillalt. So today I thought we just have a chat about everybody's favorite enemy, goblins. Hopefully they're your favorite enemy. I would say they were probably the first thing I killed when I played RuneScape. How about you guys?
Oh, yeah, definitely. They're iconic.
Yeah, I think definitely walking out of Lumbridge off Tutorial Island, you see the Goblin Village over there. I think actually that was like my first training area. I trained on goblins to like 40 attack to wield rune weapons at one point because I got some like legend traded me a rune sword. It was like the craziest thing ever. It was after a few months after I started playing, but I got a rune sword and I couldn't equip it, and I literally sat in the goblin hut across the river for hours and hours and hours until I could equip that rune sword. So
I kind of thought that was like the only way to train.
Was to kill the goblins.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't have Slayer yet whenever I started, so I just had no direction whatsoever. And I remember seeing a level 23 guy. I don't know why I remember his level, and I asked him how he got to level 23, and he said, killing. I said, what? He said, everything. And I was like, I'm taking that to mean goblins and spiders.
Right.
So, and I can only naturally assume we all tried to equip Goblin Mail. I mean, come on.
Yes, that's a classic. You know, Goblin Mail's a funny meme because I've had people that don't even play RuneScape like know that meme. They'll be like, "How do you equip Goblin Mail?
How do I make my NPC smaller? Because it says I'm too big."
Okay, so here's a question. Here's a question for those of you that actually read the lore. Okay, why is there a Goblin Camp 10 meters from the kingdom, from the castle of Mistlin? Does anybody know? It's like right there. It's like 20 tiles away from the castle.
Talking about across the River Lum, right there by the cow pen?
Right there, yeah. There's like 50 goblins. Who like why? Does anybody know? Why, I'm genuinely asking. Does anybody know any lore, any quest reason why those goblins are there? Because I have no idea.
I'll take a shot. I'll take a
Go
guess.
for it. Let me hear you guys.
I know that they branched off from the Dorgashun race of goblins that are underneath the caves beneath Lumbridge.
Oh?
They regard each other as relatives. They just, the goblins came out and got corrupted by Bandos, and the Dorgashun hated gods, so they ran underground. I can only assume that they just never made it very far from there because they're ignorant. But I'm not positive about that. That would be my best guess.
Yeah, I spacebarred through all of the quests and watched Slayer music guides. So I definitely am not brushed up on my my goblin lore and knowledge.
Okay, since Slayer music doesn't read the lore, I don't know the lore really.
Exactly. Okay, so my question is, Twist, you said that it was a goblin camp out across the river there. I always thought the goblins were attacking Lumbridge. Which is it? Are they living there, or are they attacking the city?
I'm not sure. I thought it was always their kind of place, and they had that little like hut or whatever, that house that they're in.
Yeah.
But I guess it could be that that's like an overrun area, and that's what it's supposed to be. But I don't know.
I figured that they were more just kind of meddlesome, just out and about, not really goal-oriented and meddlesome, because in the Death to the Dorgashun quest, whenever you're walking around with Zanuck, they regard her with suspicion, most of them. They're like, get away from here, get that goblin out of here. So I figured that, naturally, they're like, these little dudes are troublemakers.
Because the goblins aren't aggro to you, right? They don't attack you.
Nah. Thank God. How many people would quit? They come in and immediately lose their Tutorial Island stuff. 2 yards away. Swarmed. Welcome to RuneScape. Oh dear, you are dead.
Get swarmed by goblins.
That's what the Dark Wizards
That's
are
what
for.
the
Dark Wizards are the real ones that'll make you into a man.
Yeah.
Did you guys die to Dark Wizards when you were younger?
Many times. Back whenever your items instantly appeared to all people.
Yeah. I remember training, like I was training in the Varrock mines. I was training my mining. And this was like, I had zero game knowledge at this point. And I didn't understand why my combat level wasn't going up. Because I thought it was based off of all your levels. And I was like, and I asked my brother, I was like, why am I not getting any levels? And I was like 22 mining and still level 3. And he's like, just keep training it. Like, it'll go up eventually. And I'm just getting one hit by Dark Wizards.
I honestly had that train of thought too, but I don't remember ever having it confused with me because I remember assuming or believing that Zezima was like level 2,000 something because it showed his total on the high scores. So I was like, wow, he's level 2,000. That's crazy. And then I went around telling everybody I was Zezima.
What?
Oh, yeah, I had to, man. If somebody argued and talked shit, I'd be like, oh, sorry. Yeah. If somebody talked smack to me, I'd come up and be like, hey, man, I'm Zezima. Don't make me get my main.
Exactly. Don't let me get my main was definitely the best comeback.
He's level 2,000. Yeah. I remember telling somebody in Varrock, in that little seedy, like, southeastern part of Varrock where the sketchy stuff goes down. I remember telling somebody, like, hey, look, my main's level 2,000, bro. I'll bring him if I have to. I'll cast Flames of Zamorak on you, which I saw in the spell menu and didn't know how to get or what it was because I was free to play.
I really like the Goblins and Crabs Lumbridge. I want to get you guys' opinion on this. I always thought it was just really smart, okay, because as I imagined, I remember when I first started playing, so you start out near that castle, and probably the first thing you do is you go out that door, the first time you ever play the game, right, you go out the door, out past the gate, and you go across the river, right, the first thing you see, maybe you kill some goblins, whatever, but probably one of the first things you're going to do is you're going to try to get past that gate, right, and what does the gate tell you?
And that gate ain't having it.
You need 10 gold pieces. Well, how do you
10
get
gold pieces?
How do you get 10 gold pieces? You go and kill those goblins. I just think
smoke some goblins.
I think RuneScape's got some pretty good, like great game design across the board, and I think that's probably one of the smartest moments. I think first players, right? You need 10 gold pieces. How do you get it? You kill the goblins, and that teaches you, right? That's when you kill enemies, they drop things for you. They drop items for you.
Absolutely,
right, yeah.
And I just think I just love that beginner area. I just love it. That's probably one of my favorite areas in the whole game.
Yeah, they have that general store right across the... This is what I did when I... speaking of, like, making starter GP, I killed goblins, and then, like, they drop whatever, their bronze square shields or goblin mail or runes, and then I walked across the bridge to the general store and was just dumping all my items, and then I'd run back to the house, and that's what I would do. And
stonks.
Yeah, making all of, like... all of 250 GP an hour, probably.
No world hopping. You sell 9 of them to the shop just
you didn't know
in a line.
Of course. Well, I didn't even know you could trade other players at that point when I was playing. So until like I went to school one day and I was telling everyone what I was doing, they're like, you have to sell that to other people. Like the general store scams you.
You go to the GE.
Yeah, biggest scam in the game.
But yeah, no, that's how
biggest
I made
scam in the game.
My first 10 GP and stuff and my starter cash.
You know, it's interesting that you mentioned the fact that we all know that they're iconic as, you know, early game figures and getting your roots started. And then they end up being a deep part of the game's lore and stuff, you know, the way that they back Bandos and stuff like that. And they were involved in the God Wars. And their ignorance is infamous, as you see in Recipe for Disaster, when you're trying to cook the food with them.
Right.
And they actually end up being an integral part of the game across the board as well, you know. I actually thought until 3 days ago, I thought Bandos was a goblin. He's actually an org. He's the only living org. Yeah. Okay. I thought he was a goblin because his minions count as goblins, but he doesn't. And so I was like triggered, and I looked it up on the wiki. And he's not a goblin. He's actually an org. He's like the giant race of he's the only known living one. You know, you can get the org bones over there in those chests by Castle Wars at the at whatever you call
After
it.
the
Gutenath.
Zoger.
You kill that guy, and
you can get those ancient org bones.
And he drops those ancient org bones, and they're like 150k each or something, but you can only get 3 of them per account.
Guaranteed bank.
Right. Well, you
can actually get them from using keys on this certain coffin.
Yeah.
And they're ridiculous prayer XP, but they're like 30 something 40k each. It's like a guaranteed 100k when you finish the quest, basically. Unless you're an Iron Man, in which case it's great at the Ectofuntus.
I remember using them for prayer experience because I just thought they were so rare. I didn't want to sell
them. I don't know if you guys know this, but in pre-EOC, speaking of like Bandos being a different race, that makes sense because, or General Grador being a different race because he drops his own type of bones in RuneScape 3 and in pre-EOC. Like they changed it from him dropping big bones to him dropping the org bones.
I didn't know that.
And they give a ton of prayer XP as well, like similar to the stuff you find in those chests, But
so they stood up for their lore. That's good.
Yeah. It's funny though because I didn't remember that until you said that. But now it all makes sense that he's like the only one that drops those type of bones because he's the last living one of those. of that
Yep.
race.
I mentioned in my clan chat, I was like, did you guys know Bandos isn't a goblin? He's an org. And they were like, yeah, there was a big petition that said either change him to a goblin or make him drop org bones, stay consistent here. So I was unaware that they'd ever implemented that in any capacity.
Right. Yeah, I think they must have done that in like 2011 or so, or 2012.
Well, I think just game design, they don't want to make him a goblin because then you can get Goblin Slayer tasks from Tyrael, right?
Right.
That'd make Tyrael skipping a
'cause then
lot
you can use
better.
that Goblin task to go
62
kill
goblins and go to Bandos.
62 times. And also lore-wise, Bandos, General Grador is 4 or 5 times that of a goblin, so even the biggest one.
Right, yeah. He should at least drop like 5 sets of big bones. I mean, come on, the dude's huge.
Yeah, the bones is the bones thing in RuneScape has always been kind of odd, a little bit weird.
Right.
Which god is accepting the sacrifice of the bones, I wonder? It's giving us this prayer XP.
Right.
I actually did that. That was another part of goblins for me, too, was I buried the bones whenever I got them. And that's strictly because of Tutorial Island when the guy tells you to bury the bones. And I get to like level 7 prayer, And that's a lot of goblins, might I add, level 7 prayer.
For sure.
For those...
And I remember being very excited about that. And
at 4.5.
it was really interesting seeing the Death to the Dorgashun and actually reading it whenever I did it on my Hardcore Iron Man. Rest in peace. Because it was interesting for me to see that they had kind of branched off into different factions, and that these guys were unknown to the surface dwellers and stuff like that. And once again, it just took on a more twisted, in-depth lore basis for this iconic race. I mean, everybody that played RuneScape whenever I started, 2004, and everybody in 6th and 7th grade was playing it, they never really made it much past the goblins. They don't know anything about, Abyssal Whips or Training Slayer. They know about cooking shrimp, killing goblins. That's about all they got.
Right.
That's what I remember from being a kid as RuneScape. Because I didn't make it very far, like you were saying, just killing goblins, cooking shrimp, and fighting the Varog guards if you're brave enough. That was about it, though.
If you were brave enough, I wasn't brave enough personally.
No.
I used to see people training on those things. I was like, my God.
His power
These
level.
legends with their Addy armor.
It's like level 21 or something. How can you do that?
Yeah.
He hits 8s. I have no idea what they hit. I doubt they even hit 8s, but I know I wasn't about to fight one.
So, speaking of goblins, were you guys there for the... When Old School RuneScape first came out, were you guys there for the Goblin event? That's what I want to ask.
I missed pretty much everything when Old School first came out.
So I played Old School right when it first came out for about a few months. I got all the way up to like equipping my like dragon longsword and stuff like that, and getting like few levels here and there. But then I stopped playing. But then I remember seeing like a friend's video of him chinning the goblins. That's the only thing I remember of that event. But I wasn't there for the actual event.
Chinning goblins? What did I miss?
Yeah, so there was like a ton of... I don't remember the video exactly, but somehow you could spawn a ton of these goblins in the event, and you could basically chin them. And you didn't have to pray melee either, because I think he was like standing on top of something to where he was safe spotting them, essentially, and just throwing chins at them and getting crazy range XP.
That's wild. I bet they weren't happy that they did that.
Yeah, they said... Yeah, they haven't done anything like it because the response to it was so bad. Nobody really...
No, I missed that.
Yeah, nobody really cared about it.
I didn't have the opportunity to make an account till 2017.
Oh, yeah.
I was not there for the drop of Old School, and I was very sad about it. Never have I the only time that I ever contemplated wanting to actually break out of jail was the day my brother came to see me. It was like 2 days ago they released Old School servers, dude. I was like, that's worth the extra 5 years. Get me out of here.
Oh, my gosh.
Bust out and go to a public library and try Old School out. He was like, Rune medium helms are going for 50K because nobody in the game has them. It's crazy. It's chaos right now.
It's kind of funny because you say that like this was like this OP event, but I don't even think that many people at the time had like the knowledge or like had high enough level accounts really to start chinning during that event. Because I don't even think the GE and stuff was out then, and many people were still pretty newbie. Like I look back at me when I first started RuneScape, and I obviously knew nothing. But even at the start of Old School, I still was. I had such little game knowledge in comparison to like the game knowledge I have now. Yeah. Like I wouldn't have known to go chinning or something.
Certainly, yeah. No, I wouldn't have known that either.
Yeah.
I mean, I chinned in 2012, but if it was early game, that early in Old School, and especially if there's no Grand Exchange, chinning was probably monumental thing to try and pull off.
Yeah, no, I knew like about chinning and stuff like that, but without the Grand Exchange, I mean, I feel like the game right at the start of Old School, it was like an actual Old School game to where it was still pretty hard.
Right.
Like people were training rune crafting on nature runes for 15k experience per hour and stuff like that, all the way to 99. Like there was none of the new quality of life updates. You couldn't zoom out and stuff like that. It was brutal to play.
Pre-Grand Exchange, you're already half an Iron Man, whether you like it or not.
Oh, for sure. I barely traded people. If I wanted an item, I went and got it myself, pretty much. Because it was
understandable.
I mean, it's faster than sitting there in Varrock West Bank and spamming for like an hour, seeing if someone has like, I don't know, a pink top from the gnome. Like the gnome area.
Instead of using the spirit tree right up there. Oh, I guess if the Grand Exchange wasn't there, the spirit tree wasn't there. Never mind.
Yeah, I don't know if the spirit tree. I definitely didn't have the quest done for spirit trees.
Either way, yeah, good point. You got to have the quest done to go anyways.
Right.
I didn't actually understand how the Grand Exchange worked when it came out until I watched Skychi's video on it. And he rated it 10,000 stars out of 5, and I was like, what in the hell? I just remember him buying 2 sets of dragon boots in the video, and I was like, damn, he can afford 2 sets of dragon boots? My goodness, man, that's crazy.
Right.
Yeah, they say a lot. A lot of people say that the Grand Exchange actually saved Old School RuneScape. They would have went under without it because nobody was playing it, I guess.
Yeah,
I could understand the argument.
I mean, honestly, I've definitely thought about that a lot, and I don't know if I would still be playing if the Grand Exchange wasn't put in. I mean, now I play an Iron Man,
right.
But I think the Grand Exchange is what made the game more accessible to me and to a lot of other people. Before the Grand Exchange came about, I mean, Old School RuneScape was not really in a good place. There was only around 15,000 to 20,000 people on for the most part at any given time. Yeah, I mean, right when it was released, on release, everyone was playing Old School, right? I mean, there was probably the same amount as there is now, if not maybe a little less. Honestly, the game's in a really good spot right now, I think.
Yeah.
But close to the same amount of people on consistently. But then it fell off pretty hard after a few months. I mean, there was no content in the game, like end game content, except for Barrows and Cowfight Queen, and like.
And eventually God Wars Dungeon, right? Oh God, Cowfight Queen.
Well, yeah. I remember watching Rune Shark's video. Like he was the first one to get Abyssal Whip on his account and like get the Slayer level to kill Abyssal demons. And after he like farmed a bunch of whips, made a ton of money, that's where he went, was like to KQ because there was nothing else to do in the game. So I was like,
ouch, bro. Yeah. Let's go get hit for constant 30s.
Yeah, back wearing like just Barrows.
See if I can get a Dragon Chain Body.
Killing it with a whip.
Yeah, he's got like Varrock.
Yeah, you're killing it with a whip and like a magic short bow.
Ooh, no blowpipe.
Varrocks, yeah. No blowpipe. Yeah.
It was interesting for me to come out and find out about all these new updates that they had done, And there's one that I have a particular bone to pick. All my people that like watch my streams and stuff know that I'm very uncomfortable with one major update in the game, but I think that in general they've done an excellent job of maintaining where the game would have gone had they not ruined it like 2009 or 10-ish until EOC,
Right. I think I could guess at which piece of content you don't like.
It's Zaya.
Yeah.
It's Zaya kind of as a whole. Is that what you were going to guess?
Yeah.
Mostly Winter Toad that I have issue
like
with.
Winter Toad and maybe like Blood Rune Crafting.
Winter
and
Toad
stuff
specifically. Like that. I don't really. I think that Rune Crafting needs some kind of an update like that. It's decent they made it AFK, but there's stuff on Zaya that I'm cool with or whatever. But I think in general, man, I don't know how to put it. It's a little OP, man.
Yeah. Well, you should have seen.
I skewed so far from goblins. My bad, man.
It's all good. Actually, I want to. I know a lot of people know the statistic, but I'm actually looking at the player count for over the years of OSRS. So, just to put it in perspective, kind of like what Twist was saying, just before the Grand Exchange came out, the player count in December of 2014 was about 15,000, and then 3 months later they added the GE, and it jumps up to about 40,000. It's been about 3 weeks, and then since then you can see it going up and down.
Good move then.
Well, I mean, goblins, unfortunately, there's not a lot to talk about. They're not. I mean, there's a lot of lore, stuff like that, but there's not a lot of. Like I was looking at the highest level goblins, only like 24. Like what can you really do?
Yeah.
Who's that? What, the generals or something like
I
Bent
think it's
Nose
the
or whatever?
goblins in the God War dungeon. That's actually level 24.
Oh, okay.
Oh, interesting.
ones you
Okay,
kill
the ones
for
you kill for
KC.
KC to go to Bandos.
Yeah, and those ones that have the flags that you kill for a hammer, right? Because you can get a hammer from
With the 3 HP,
those
yeah.
are the ones. Those are my favorite goblins. They just die so quickly.
As soon as you click on them and you aggro towards them, they immediately retreat. But they only have 3 HP. Like I think there's some kind of weird code on it. When you click on it from 10 steps away, they immediately start to retreat.
I didn't know that. Yeah, well, I guess you kill them so quickly, it doesn't really matter. But actually, I was wrong. The strongest goblin's actually in the Stronghold of Security. And to be honest, I didn't even know that there were goblins in the Stronghold of Security.
Yeah, they're on the...
I don't think I remember that either.
They're on the first floor with, like, the Minotaurs and stuff.
Oh, wait. Question. Maybe you guys know answer this. The goblins didn't used to look like what they look like now, right? They used to have an old design.
Right.
I would imagine, yeah. There was an old...
Yeah, I have a clear mental image of what they used to look
I was
like.
thinking that because to me, their new design, I still think they look great. But they kind of look like... You know, like the Varrock guards, they look like they're about to be ported into RS3, but they're not quite there. I think the goblins look the same way.
Right.
They look that kind of like they're a little bit too good, like they're about to go into RS3. You know what I mean?
I feel like there's a lot of art in the game that applies to that. Yeah, it's like it's noticeably old school new content, you know? Yeah, I know what you mean. It looks like it's kind of almost pre-OC type because the better graphics and better design.
Pre-EOC, that's the word for it. Yeah, it looks like they were like getting them ready to go over to go over to EOC.
Well, I mean, it makes sense because I think RuneScape HD came out around 2008 or 2009. Right. So, I mean, if we're... like a lot of the base content in this game is 2007, so it makes sense that some of the models like they were starting to move over, and then some just got completely forgotten about and aren't moved over, and they're from like 2001. Have you ever seen that NPC underneath Draenor, like in the sewers?
Oh yeah,
I forget what
he's got an anvil and stuff, don't he?
Yeah, that NPC has basically never been updated almost, and I don't think it's even updated, like his face in the chat box, like when you talk to him in the dialogue box. I don't even think it's updated in RuneScape 3.
Dead content.
Because no one goes down there, so no one
Loner
sees
content.
Yeah. But like if you go talk to him, it's like a face from 2000.
I love that stuff, to be honest.
So weird.
Yeah.
It's cool for us, but I wonder how like people who aren't familiar with the game see that kind of stuff.
They think it's terrible.
Because like here's like the level 2 man, and then like the goblins are like almost. I mean, they're still very close, but they look. You know, it's kind of like comparing Mount Cruellum, where Konar is, to like Lumbridge. You know, just by the art style.
Right. Yeah.
It's very, very different.
Whole different era.
Right. Whole different era. Yeah.
Right.
Very advanced art designs now, and better, I guess, color palettes, etc. They've just elevated the game.
Oh, here I found him. His name's Rontun. Oh my gosh. Oh yeah. What the heck?
Is he super old school looking?
He just looks awful.
How do you spell it?
Ruantun. Viewers, if you're listening to this, look him up. Ruantun. Rantan. Yeah, I think it's funny. Just going off the whole thing, it's like there are so many characters in RuneScape that are just like, I don't want to say forgotten, because it's sort of like they don't serve a purpose. They just never did anything with them, which I don't think is a bad thing necessarily. But poor old Ruentun is
Oh yeah, I remember him. Oh yeah,
just like his eyes.
Yeah. Oh, that's old school.
Do you see that face? That's the same face that pops up in the dialogue box in 2020 RS3.
Wow.
So funny.
It's
nice
so
little throwback, I guess.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I feel like if they changed him at this point, people would riot.
Probably
What
so.
is he?
I mean, everybody just got done rioting about lobster pot, lobster cage. So.
What does he do?
Oh, right,
like, what is his point in the game? Like, what does he do?
He helps you with desert treasure. He helps you make the silver pot so you can awaken the other vampire, because it's implied that he's a vampire by his eyes and body language and such.
Right.
Limited body language, though it may be.
Yeah, the mocap and stuff for
Yeah, the high definition mocap they brought in for old school.
I just think it adds to like the history of the game, and I think a lot of players of RuneScape really appreciate they have a lot of love for the history. They don't like the history changed, and you can see the history,
right?
Especially really in the character models and just the area design. But
very much so.
Sometimes I find it kind of odd, like the Veragods and the Goblins, that they didn't eventually change them back to what I consider more old school look.
Right, like a 2004, 2005 look.
Because that's how the rest of the game looks.
Yeah.
Well, pretty much the original release. Do you guys know if that was ever pulled, where the Goblins... was a Goblin appearance change ever pulled? Does anybody know that?
Not that I'm aware of.
I don't think it was... So I think that what I was saying before is... I think that was the way they looked in 2007, the way they are in game right now. But I think it was recently changed in 2007.
Right.
So other models might be from like 2004 and not changed, and they got these certain models like the Goblins or the Guards probably ready first, because that's the first thing people see when they come into the game. That's what I would imagine.
It just seems odd to me that those weren't changed to make them look more old school, so they don't stand out so much. If that makes any sense.
I feel as though a large part of it is basically just them trying to draw in new players, because every time I try to bring somebody into the game, all they do is complain about the graphics, because everybody's used to, Overwatch or,
They're really,
whatever the kids are playing these days, Siege or whatever,
The visual fidelity is a little rough, but that's part of the appeal for me, I think.
Yeah, same here. Right. I think the old school players appreciate the old graphics. We don't have any problem with it, but at the same time, it's not exactly conducive to the growth of the game, and that's probably more what they're looking at. And I mean, if they got to change some graphics around, it's kind of like the Grand Exchange. People can argue about it all day, but you just looked at the numbers. Point blank, it was good for the game. That means it was good for us who were playing it.
Right.
The proof is right there.
Right.
The more players, the more revenues coming to Jagex, the more that we get content, the more that we have dedicated teams. And that's why they grew from, 8 people or whatever they started with for the old school team, and now they're 30, 40 deep.
Yeah.
That's because they make these decisions, and touch the graphics up, might keep one more player, might keep another player here. Grand Exchange, oh, cool, now we actually can max if we want to, et cetera, et cetera. Overall, good for the growth of the game,
Right, yeah.
Well,
Yeah, I think that's definitely true, but at the same time, some people wouldn't you wouldn't want to alienate your veteran players and your core player,
very true,
player base and stuff like that. While I don't think something as simple as the way the Goblins or the Guards look is that big of a deal, at least not for me.
Right.
There are definitely certain changes that just because it brings in more players, it might not be good, because are those the people who are going to stick around? Or are you going to have the people, like the veteran players, who are sticking around long term? You might attract people off the bat, but with flashy graphics and whatnot. But are those people who are just attracted to the game for the graphics, or are they really going to stick around?
It's
probably not.
This is something I don't understand about 2020. There's lots of things that I don't understand about the modern age because of me going away for a while. Let me tell you this. Hey man, try out old school RuneScape. The graphics. You know what I'm going to play instead? Minecraft. How in the way are you going to complain about the graphics and then go play Minecraft?
Well, I think Josh, I think you may be misunderstanding graphics a bit. Video Game Donkey has a really, really good and concise video on it. There's a difference between visual fidelity, like how good something looks, versus graphics, like how well the game conveys information to you. And I will say, I think Old School RuneScape does have some graphics in the literal sense of the word problem. For instance, like items on the ground are really hard to tell the difference of. So for a new player, it's kind of hard to see it because the fidelity can be rough. But I can understand as a new player, you come in because you got to think they're not playing on RuneLight. They don't have overlays that tell you what's on the ground or what items in the inventory are. And I think those graphics can be kind of off-putting for new players too. Also, the visual fidelity.
Whereas with us advanced players, we see it laying on the ground and we're like, "Ooh, test it."
We just know we played it so much
because we know.
Yeah.
Right. For sure. Yeah, that's a good point about the whole RuneLight thing. Right. I think that is something that I don't know how well I could even play this game without Runelight at this point, right? I mean, we've gotten so accustomed to these plugins and these helpers and stuff. And this is stuff that's not in the base client. And if someone's new to the game, they're not going and downloading Runelight most likely, unless they have a friend telling them to go and play the game and download Runelight first. But there's definitely quality of life things in Runelight that make the game a lot easier and more appealing probably to a new player, even more so than a veteran player like any of us. That would be more helpful for getting them into the game. But because those things aren't in the base client, like maybe they aren't as willing to stick around with the game as they would be if they knew about Runelight. So I think Jagex might want to look into something like that, to implementing some of these Runelight features in their base client.
Absolutely. I mean, they were actually talking about that a few months ago before the pandemic happened. I was recently in a halfway house because I got released again, and I was mobile only for 6 months. And I remember just obsessively reading the stuff that they were going to do to the vanilla client of the game, and what they could or could not do with mobile. Because, of course, mobile's probably going to have to stay about the way that it is. And I personally think they did a great job on it. They get a lot of flack for it, but the first time I logged in on it, it was intuitive, and I knew how to do it. But they were looking at certain things that they would do. I'm really glad that Runelight decided to stay 100% compliant. I would imagine probably the JMods use Runelight when they play,
for sure.
Which, I mean, what does that really tell you, I mean, and then people say, I've heard people actually argue that if you're going to use Runelight, you might as well play RuneScape 3, because apparently RuneScape 3 has these, plugins or, trackers. I guess they're not plugins, but in their client. And I'm just like, these are things that every modern MMORPG should probably have, but we are playing an outdated old game. And thank God for Runelight. I was using OS Buddy when I first got out, and that was great, the free version for what it was. And then I tried Runelight, and I was like, oh, this is over with. This is amazing. This almost makes agility almost semi-halfway close to being AFK. Almost.
Yeah. Okay,
Click the green.
They just added those footsteps on the agility course, which I think is a great addition to, like,
graphics. That's the kind of graphics I was telling you about. It's kind of graphics I was mentioning. Those are graphics because agility. There's really no graphics that convey that information which way to go. You do have the signs that point with the footsteps. That's good. It's a good example of them updating what I think is more important. Those kind of graphics. Well, guys, we have been recording for about 32 minutes now. Final remarks about our original topic, goblins. Anybody?
I love goblins. I'm not a member of Ham, but I do kill lots of goblins. Gardor, I'm coming for you soon on the Iron Man, and I'm coming for all your minions too. I'm coming for the orgs and the goblins over there in the God Wars dungeon. That's all I have to say. I'm coming for the Tassets.
Twist, you got anything about goblins?
Yeah, I just want to apologize to all the thousands of goblins I killed training for 40 attack in that house. I didn't know. I didn't see the errors of my ways. I didn't know you could go kill cows in the pen across the street.
I love it.
I would have done that instead if I knew.
I love it. All right, guys. Like I said, for those of you who do listen to this, this is our pilot episode. Please follow us on Twitter, OS Runecast. Catch our live stream. Look for us on Spotify. And look for our real episode coming very, very soon. So we'll see you next week. Thank you so much for listening.